The rain hammered against the glass doors of Hansen and Associates as Maya pressed her forehead against the cold surface, watching the well-dressed employees hurry past without a second glance. Her reflection stared back a young woman in a carefully mended blazer, clutching a portfolio that had been rejected 17 times in 3 weeks. She didn't cry anymore. There weren't any tears left. Maya stepped back into the downpour, her worn shoes splashing through puddles as she made her way to the bus stop. The city looked different when you were poor, she'd learned. The gleaming skyscrapers weren't monuments to possibility, they were fortresses, and she didn't have the password to get in. Her phone buzzed with another automated rejection email, and she didn't bother reading it. They all said the same thing in different words. We've decided to pursue other candidates whose qualifications better match our needs. What they meant was that her state college degree didn't shine like the Ivy League credentials of other applicants, that her address in the poor part of town raised eyebrows, that the gap in her resume from when she'd worked 3 jobs to pay for her dying mother's medical bills made her look unstable, uncommitted, not serious enough about her career. 6 months ago, Maya had graduated with honors in marketing and design, her head full of dreams and strategies that could revolutionize brand engagement. She'd written her thesis on emotional storytelling in advertising, creating campaigns that moved people to tears in her presentation. Her professors had called her brilliant, but brilliance, she discovered, didn't pay the rent. It didn't impress hiring managers who took one look at her thrift store clothes and made up their minds before she even opened her mouth. The bus ride home took 40 minutes, and Maya spent it staring at her portfolio. Inside were campaigns she'd created for imaginary companies, each one representing hundreds of hours of work. There was the rebranding concept for a struggling coffee shop that emphasized community over commerce, the social media strategy for a bookstore that focused on the transformative power of story, the complete marketing overhaul for a fitness center that celebrated every body type, every starting point, every small victory. They were good, she knew they were good, but nobody wanted to see them. Her apartment was a studio in a building where the heat worked sporadically, and the neighbors fought loudly at 2 in the morning. Maya had tried to make it cheerful with plants from the dollar store and prints she'd designed herself. But tonight, it just looked sad. She heated up instant noodles and sat on her futon, opening her laptop to search for jobs she was probably too qualified for, and positions she wasn't qualified enough to get. That's when she saw it. Junior Marketing Associate, Sterling Dynamics. The description was different from the others. Instead of listing required years of experience and demanding specific software expertise, it asked for passion, creativity, and the ability to see beyond the obvious. The salary was modest but livable. The company, she discovered after some research, was a mid-sized firm that helped small businesses build their brands. It wasn't glamorous, but it felt real. Maya spent 4 hours on her application. She didn't just send her resume, she created a presentation showing how she would approach 3 of Sterling Dynamics' current clients, offering fresh perspectives on their challenges. She poured everything into it. Her understanding of what it meant to struggle, her belief that every business had a story worth telling, her conviction that marketing should build bridges, not walls. She hit submit at midnight and allowed herself one moment of hope before exhaustion pulled her under. 3 days later, her phone rang with an unknown number. Maya almost didn't answer. She'd learned that hope was expensive and she couldn't afford it anymore. But something made her pick up. Is this Maya Rodriguez? A warm voice asked. This is Janet from Sterling Dynamics. We'd like to bring you in for an interview. Maya's hand trembled. Yes, of course. When would tomorrow at 10 work for you? Tomorrow. She had one clean blouse and $37 to her name until her grocery store paycheck came through. Tomorrow is perfect. That night, Maya hand-washed her blouse in the sink and ironed it with a cheap iron that only worked if you held it at exactly the right angle. She polished her shoes until they looked almost new. She rehearsed her talking points in the mirror, trying to look confident, capable, like someone who hadn't been rejected 17 times. Sterling Dynamics occupied 3 floors of a renovated warehouse downtown. It wasn't the sleek, intimidating glass tower of other companies. It had exposed brick and plants everywhere, mismatched furniture that somehow worked together, and people who smiled at her when she walked in. Maya felt something unfamiliar, the possibility of belonging. Janet, the HR director, was kind and asked questions that seemed designed to know Maya, not test her. They talked about her thesis, her campaign ideas, her philosophy that good marketing made people feel seen. But then Janet explained that she was just the first interview. The second would be with the CEO, Harrison Sterling himself. He likes to meet every potential hire personally, Janet explained. He's unconventional but brilliant. Just be yourself. Be herself. Maya had been trying so hard to be whoever they wanted her to be that she'd almost forgotten what that meant. Harrison Sterling's office was nothing like Maya expected. Instead of a massive desk and leather chairs, there was a round table covered in sketches, bookshelf overflowing with business books and novels, and windows that overlooked the city. The man who stood to greet her was in his early 40s, wearing jeans and a button-down with the sleeves rolled up. He had kind eyes that crinkled when he smiled. "Maya, thank you for coming in. Please sit." He gestured to the table. "I looked at your application. Actually, I've looked at it about 5 times now. That campaign you designed for the hypothetical bookstore walked me through your thinking." Maya took a breath and began to talk. She explained how she'd focused on the idea that bookstores weren't just selling books, they were selling transformation, escape, connection. That the campaign centered real customers and their stories, showing how a single book had changed their lives. That it used social media not as a billboard, but as a conversation. Harrison listened intently, occasionally nodding or jotting notes. When she finished, he leaned back in his chair. "Why has it taken you 6 months to find a position? With ideas like these, you should have been hired immediately." Maya hesitated. This was the moment where she usually deflected, made excuses, tried to hide the truth. But something about Harrison's directness made her choose honesty instead. "Because I'm poor," she said quietly. "Because I went to a state school nobody's impressed by. Because I have a gap in my resume from when I was taking care of my mother, and potential employers see that as a red flag. Because I show up to interviews in clothes I've had for 6 years, and people make assumptions about who I am before I say a word. I'm good at what I do. I know I am, but nobody wants to see past the surface." The silence stretched between them. Maya waited for the polite dismissal, the same speech she'd heard variations of 17 times. Instead, Harrison nodded slowly. "I grew up in a trailer park," he said. "Single mother, 3 kids, food stamps, and hand-me-down everything. I put myself through community college working night shifts at a gas station. When I applied to my first real job, the interviewer told me I didn't have the polish they were looking for. He meant I didn't have money. I didn't have connections. I didn't fit their image." Maya stared at him, speechless. "I built this company on a principle," Harrison continued, "that talent and poverty aren't mutually exclusive, that the best ideas often come from people who've had to fight for everything, that if you judge someone by their clothes or their dress or their resume gaps, you're going to miss out on extraordinary people." He pulled out her application again. "You created something remarkable here, Maya. Not in spite of your struggles, but informed by them. You understand what it means to need someone to see your worth. That's exactly the perspective I want in this company." Maya felt something crack open in her chest, all the rejection, all the nights wondering if she'd ever be good enough, all the fear that maybe everyone else was right, and she didn't belong in this world. "Are you offering me the job?" she asked, her voice barely steady. "I'm offering you the job," Harrison confirmed. "But more than that, I'm offering you the chance to help me build something different. A place where we hire for potential and passion, not pedigree. Where we tell stories that matter for clients who need us. Where someone's bank account doesn't determine their value." He extended his hand. "What do you say?" Maya shook his hand, and for the first time in 6 months, she let herself smile without reservation. "I say yes. Thank you. You have no idea what this means." "Actually," Harrison said gently, "I do." The first year at Sterling Dynamics transformed Maya's life in ways she couldn't have imagined. She worked on campaigns for small businesses, a family restaurant, an independent pharmacy, a local gym, and poured her heart into making them succeed. Her bookstore campaign concept became real when a client came in with that exact need, and the results exceeded every projection. Her work started winning awards. Industry publications took notice. But the real transformation was internal. Maya learned that her worth wasn't determined by how many times she'd been rejected, but by how she'd kept showing up. She learned that poverty had taught her empathy, resilience, and creativity that no privileged upbringing could match. She learned that the right opportunity with the right person could change everything. 2 years later, Harrison promoted her to senior strategist and asked her to help redesign their hiring process. Together, they created a system that evaluated candidates on their ideas and potential rather than their credentials and connections. They partnered with community colleges and created paid internships for students who couldn't afford to work for free. They built the company Maya had needed when she was drowning in rejection. One rainy afternoon, Maya stood in the office lobby and watched a young woman press her face against the glass doors, clutching a portfolio with the same desperate hope Maya remembered. Without hesitation, Maya opened the door. "Can I help you?" she asked. The woman looked startled, then embarrassed. "I'm sorry. I know I don't have an appointment. I've been trying to get into marketing for months, and nobody will even look at my work. I saw your building, and I thought maybe. She stopped, realizing how it sounded. Maya smiled and held out her hand. I'm Maya Rodriguez, senior strategist here. Come inside. Let's see what you've got. As she led the young woman to a conference room, Maya caught Harrison's eye across the office. He nodded, understanding passing between them. They were building something that mattered, one overlooked candidate at a time, proving that worth couldn't be measured in bank accounts or connections, but in the courage to keep trying when everything said to give up. The city still had its fortresses, its locked doors, its barriers designed to keep certain people out. But Maya had learned the truth. Sometimes all it takes is one person willing to see past the surface to recognize that brilliance can come. Wrapped in thrift store clothes and worn shoes, sometimes all it takes is someone who remembers what it felt like to be invisible and who refuses to let anyone else disappear. And sometimes the greatest success stories begin with 17 rejections and one person who finally said yes.